Do it for the plot. But what is a plot? Hi there, it's Shannon, and welcome to Yay English, your channel for all your English questions. Recently, we have been learning about different story elements. Story elements are the fundamental components that make up a narrative. In today's lesson, we will be learning all about plot. By the end of today's video, you will know what plot is and you will know the different parts of a plot. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. A plot is the sequence of events that unfolds in a story. Are you familiar with the story Cinderella? Today, we are going to use this story to demonstrate the different parts of a plot. The first part of a plot is the exposition. This is the introduction to your story. This is where you get to know the characters and the setting, and you also get insights on the story's conflict. In the story of Cinderella, this is where we get to know Cinderella's backstory. We also learn that she has two evil stepsisters and an evil stepmother. This second part of a plot is the rising action. This is when the story starts to build and the conflict develops. During this time, the characters might start to face some obstacles or challenges. In the story of Cinderella, this is when the king announces that there's going to be a royal ball, but Cinderella is prevented from going. Next, we have the climax. This is the most exciting part of the story. This is when characters face their biggest challenges and the outcomes of the story are determined. In our example, this is when Cinderella meets the fairy godmother, who makes her a beautiful dress and then sends her off to the ball, where Cinderella gets to dance with the prince. However, while Cinderella is hurrying back home to make it there before midnight, she loses a slipper. Next, we have the falling action. This is when the story begins to calm down. In our example, this is when Cinderella's foot perfectly fits the glass slipper. And finally, we have the resolution. This is the conclusion of the story where we get to see what becomes of the characters. In our example, this is when Cinderella gets married to the prince and they live happily ever after. There you go! Now you know all the parts of a plot. You can think of a plot like a mountain, where you start with the exposition, then you have the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and then the resolution. So now that you know all about a plot, let's create our own. It's time to step it up. First, we need to create the exposition. Think of a setting, the characters, and the conflict for your story. I decided to make my story about some cats who live on a boat, except they're afraid of water. Next, we need to think of the rising action for our stories. This is where we can develop the conflict. The rising action for my story is that while the cats are sailing, their boat gets a leak. All right, now we need to think of a good climax for our stories. Remember, this is the most exciting part. In the climax of my story, the cats have to quickly learn how to swim so that they can get to an island for safety. Now, begin to think of a way that you can calm your story down with a good falling action. The falling action of my story is that the cats wait on the island for the rescue boat. And now it's time to conclude your story with a good resolution. The resolution of my story is that the cats are rescued off the island, and hey, now they're not afraid of water because they learned how to swim. Good job! Now you know what a plot is, and you know about the different parts of a plot. Now when someone says to you, do it for the plot, you know what a plot is. Now I want to hear from you. What were the answers that you created for your plot? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up. I'll see you next time on